Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Tally Book Troubleshooting. I'm your host, Keith Stelter, trying to bring a little positive PR to the oil and gas industry. Coming to you from sunny Odessa, Texas, Permian Basin, heart of the United States oil field, heart of North America. Well, is it the heart of North America's oil field? Could an argument be made for the tar sands up in Fort McMurray? I don't know. But here we are. Opportunity everywhere in the Permian. Love it here. Always a big fan of it ever since I've moved here with my family a few years ago. A few shout outs to make. Tally Book Troubleshooting brought to you by 413 Mechanical. Contact us for all your construction needs, structural steel manufacturing, header skids, piping, on site construction, pipeline, you name it. Give us a call. We started out North Dakota, big in Colorado. Now we're here in the Permian, working our way up the ladder, trying to earn your business. So reach out today. Also, I will be at the short course, the Southwestern Petroleum Short Course at Texas Tech on April 19th for all the artificial lift. Going to be a blast, a lot of educational stuff. Check out last week's episode with Scott Emerson, who came on just to kind of announce it and ended up answering a few customer questions about rods and about artificial lift. Very, very great. Also, next week, Social Octane Golf Games is going to be in Midland. I'm going to be bringing you a little bit of content for that for next Tally Book Troubleshooting. So you want to see some of the madness that goes out there. If you can't make it, drop us a line. Also, let me know where you're watching from. The comments are already coming in. It's great to see everybody up this morning. Tally Book Tuesday. Lord Bailey Minka, great state of Wyoming. Yes, sir. Good morning. Summer, howdy from Houston. Justin, good morning. Man, how are you liking Midland? We got to get together here, sir. Glad you're down here in God's country, and I hope you and your family are enjoying it. Carrie Joe, good morning. The one and only JP Warren. Man, can't say enough about this guy. Hair, he's got it. The look, the connection crew, the book. You got to check out his children's book, Energy for Everyone. I got it for my daughter. Man, one of these days I'm going to have to get a video out of her reading it to my son. Clinton Moss, California. How is it out there? Did my guy, are you still working with my guy, Clint? I've been meaning to ask you if everything worked out there. Let me know what happened there. Man, pray for my kids at the orphanage. We'll all be friends. Yes, sir. Well, prayers your way. LinkedIn user watching from Odessa, Halliburton. Now, if you don't know LinkedIn user, it comes up because your privacy settings are on. So that's why we can't see it. Justin Brignac. Hey, sir. Yes, very, very popular. I'm still in Houston. Came back to pack the last truck. Final trip Thursday. Man, I don't know if the Permian's big enough to hold you here, Justin. It really is. Justin Brignac. For those of you who don't know him, I meant to have him on the show. This guy's got some life stories from playing rugby all around the world, just decides to pick up and get up out there. I don't want to spoil it, but he's got to come on and tell his story. It is very unique, to say the least. And finally, without any further ado, when we're talking about unique, here's a guy who's got a lot going on. Welcomes me into his studio last week for the Crude Truth. The one and only Mr. Ray Trevino. Sir, thank you for coming on today.
Oh, Keith, thank you for having me on such a whirlwind Tuesday morning, or should I say a Tally Book Troubleshooting Tuesday morning. How are you?
Man, I'm doing great. Thanks for taking the time. I know you got a trip later today you're making, right? You're heading up to Oklahoma?
I am. I'm going to go up there and, you were talking about JP just a second ago. I'm going to go meet up with him and the rest of that connection crew in Oklahoma. I haven't been up there in a long time, especially if you don't count Windstar or Durant. So, Choctaw, I think is what it's called. And haven't done something live in 9 forever. So, man, you've got me, and I'm on the edge I'm on my toes right now, and edge of my seat, literally. I'm excited.
For all of you, for JP's children's book, here's the link. He's throwing it in the comments. Brent Kasuma, thank you, sir. Former used to work for me at Weatherford. Ty Fisher, good morning. Alexander Price, looking for the stories. Yes, this is what it's all about. Before we get to the stories, Ray, introduce yourself and let everybody know kind of, who you are, what your background is, and where we're going to go today.
Certainly, man. Where are we not going to go today? I mean, there's so much we can talk about. From is President Trump going to be arrested today? To is Ron DeSantis going to run for office? And more importantly, is President Biden going to actually spend a whole day working and not nap 3 or 4 times? So, no, Keith, my background is awesome. I'm blessed. I'm a second generation oil and gas. My father started in the oil and gas industry in the late 80s by investing in working interest. And in 2011, me and my brothers picked up with him, and we started participating in a larger way in a lot of working interest projects. And fast forward about 5 years, and God had other plans for us to start operating. And so that's what we've been doing now for the greater part of the last 5 years, is operating our own oil wells, and more importantly, drilling our own oil wells. And I say that as if we're the ones that are physically doing it. We have a great team that helps us out, from geologists to drillers to mud guys like Basin Fluids, and even great chemical companies. So, we just use a lot of individuals. And I know I mentioned Basin Fluids because I think they've got a great yard there in Midland that they use. And shout outs to Odessa, Texas, because that's where you're coming from today, if I'm correct, right?
Yeah, and Basin Fluids, if I'm not mistaken, was one of the great big. They were a great donator during the Sky High for Kids when I cut my hair. So shout out to them. Great guys over there. So you're operator now, but you did a little bit of sales as well, didn't you?
I played around with it a little bit, especially during the pandemic. We didn't know. I don't know how much people really know, but there were a lot of changes in the oil and gas industry come 2020. And like us, we didn't really see the crystal ball. That's one thing my father has always, I think, been able to teach us and allow us to learn, is that a lot of things we've seen in the past, we've seen it before. So a lot of things that are going on, from the uncertainty with the wars out in other parts of the world, from the uncertainties of administrations being anti-oil, to where there's a war on oil. This isn't the first time. We're looking as if it's 1978 again with a war on fossil fuels. However, when we went to negative oil, and I've talked about this a couple times, on April 20th, actually almost 3 years to the day, or actually yesterday, 3 years to the day yesterday, when you saw negative oil for the first time, it was that was a different deal. And a lot of families like ourselves in the oil and gas industry kind of changed directions. So no, I've done my part in the sales game, and I respect it. And I tell you what, I think you and I briefly talked about this on the Crude Truth, that you got to give the sales guy or lady 5 minutes. They might have a great opportunity and might be able to save you some money in the long run, and that is awesome. And so, yeah, no, shout out to all those sales individuals, business development people out there. You guys are the ones that, help these service companies do all the great things that they do.
I was going to ask the question, lots of people tune in, they're in sales. They try and, one of the hardest thing to do in sales is to approach a customer you've never met before, try and break the ice. What's your advice? Just a minute or so of, what's the best way to kind of approach somebody?
Oh, man, the best way I always do it, I'm a Texan, born and raised, God bless Texas. And here in Texas, we like to have a conversation first. Hey, how are you doing today? What's going on? And that's what I have found has always been the best way to break the ice, is just be nice and always have a positive energy. Obviously, I'm sure sometimes I may not have the best one if I'm sitting behind my desk, or, maybe the admin may not have the best day going on. But I just say always, what is it? The golden rule: treat people the way you want to be treated. And I think that's all you can do in the sales game. I know for a fact that you've got some of the best people out there that are doing a great job for operators and other big multi-billion-dollar companies, and they're just doing what they think is best by looking out for their employer. And so don't give them a hard time if they just run you off or something like that. Now, who knows what kind of day they're having as well, right, Keith?
Yes, sir. Well, one last quick question. When COVID came along, A lot of the offices closed, and it wasn't really appropriate anymore to just show up and try and come see anybody like it was very appropriate, 10 years or 5 years ago, right? Do you think
Right.
those days are kind of back here where someone can just kind of show up with the good intentions and try and meet somebody? And if someone's available, do you think, is that frowned upon now? Or do you think it's back to what it used to be?
You know what? I'm going to be positive. I think we're back to where it used to be. You're going to have individuals that are still going to use COVID as a crutch to not get in the door, and that's okay. And I think we're in a world that, hey, we got to respect people if they want to wear a mask, and if I don't want to wear a mask in the same room, I think that's great. So I do think it will be a crutch for some, but no, I mean, look at the great city of Odessa, Texas, Keith. They were doing awesome right there. And during the pandemic, no masks, and I think they've been doing even better since then. They've welcomed even more people into their town, and so I think the great state of Texas as a whole is really back on track, minus the price of oil that we're at today.
Yes, sir. Switching gears here, you spoke about the great people of Texas and West Texas, the oil industry. Recently, you have this show, The Crude Truth, and the oil and gas workers had this, I guess, initiative to haul water up to East Palestine. And one of your episodes featured the President of Oil and Gas Workers Association. Shout out to Matt Cody. But he also had like a doctor and a few other people on there that were really talking about some of the things that people would be, facing out there. So I wanted to shout that out to anybody out there who hasn't checked out The Crude Truth. Check out that episode because it was very eye-opening. What I watched it was, those people are going to have problems for years to come, and there's going to be a lot that they're going to have to address. So good on you, sir.
Oh, no, that was a team effort. Part of my team is the Sandstone Group, led by Stuart Turley, and one of his fellow podcasters is Dr. Matt Chalmers, and he is a health and wellness doctor, PhD. And we had an opportunity to really sit down and talk with Matt Cody while he was in East Palestine, and really kind of get a great update on what's going on up there. And there's a lot of funny stuff, that may or may not be going up there. And, I don't know how many of, first of all, thank you to everybody that even got on this live podcast today. My heart is pounding. I'm so nervous, but thank you all for being on. I really appreciate that, and I know Keith does as well. But
yes, sure.
If for everyone out there that's listening or watching, if I'm sure y'all have all seen those commercials for Camp Lejeune with the bad water that was in the 1970s or 80s or 50s and 60s, 70s and 80s, and how the government is just now starting to pay reparations for that horrible incident with the dirty water. And I think that is where we will be headed with East Palestine, Ohio, that this is going to be something that is going to affect that area for the next 30 years. And not to mention here in Texas, they were trying to get some of that water or the dirty water or dirty soil to be disposed of here. And it's like, hey, we can't have that. We need to see what it is that's going. And wouldn't you know it, it's being shipped here by rail. How hilarious is that? I mean, rail is very safe, just like airplanes are very safe. So I think, and so are pipelines, might I add, are actually even more safe.
As long as you do the maintenance and take care of them, once they start getting a little wonky, we have these big infrastructure bills. Hopefully the money's going to repair some of this much needed infrastructure that seems to be getting older by the day.
That's funny. You mentioned infrastructure bills. I don't know if it's an infrastructure bill or are they bills to combat fossil fuels. I talk to David Blackman very, very often, and he really broke down the Inflation Reduction Act and how over $100 billion was actually going towards a green initiative more than it was going towards things like infrastructure and so on and so forth. And that's just a darn shame, Keith. I really hope we can get an administration in place here in 2024 that is truly looking out for Americans and American workers. And I do want to do a shout out real quick again to Matt Cody with the Oil and Gas Workers Association, that he may be titled and with the oil and and gas industry. However, he's looking out for everyone in America by making sure that we continue to have great paying jobs here in America.
Here's a question that's kind of interesting. We all assume where we live, we're not East Palestine, but when was the last time anyone checked to see what the air was like where you live or where I live, right? That's a really good question. And today, I think in the future, that's going to be something where people are going to be checking that on their own, because I don't think anybody else is going to look out for it. Do you?
No, and Alexander, is that who it was? Thank you so much for the question. Obviously, I'm actually in Dallas today at the Real News Studios in Dallas, and I love Fort Worth, and that's where I live. However, I haven't checked the air there or in Midland or Odessa. However, it is scientifically proven that due to natural gas, our CO2 emissions across this great country have gone down tremendously over the last 20 plus years. And so that's something else that I'm proud to say that, if the oil and gas industry has actually helped reduce air pollution due to the fact that we don't burn as much coal as we used to, and the fact that we're not burning wood for like our stoves or heaters and things like that. Or now up in the Northeast, unfortunately, they are still burning oil for heat, which is a horrible pollutant. But that's just due to ancient policies where they don't have any new natural gas pipelines going in to the Northeast, Keith.
Jerry makes a good point here. Methane emissions around compressor stations still need to be improved. There's lots of improvements that can be made here if we really want to. But at the technology, it's not 1985 anymore. The technology is there, and every day we get a little bit better. I had a refinery show one time where the refinery technology, if we start building some newer refineries, they can reduce the CO2 emissions by up to 95%. So it's crazy what's available. And, I think you're right. The U.S. leads the way in trying to do it better. Lots of improvements still need to be made. I don't ever, I'm not against alternative energies because the population's ever growing. We need more energy, and oil and gas, even though administrations may spend lots of money to, be anti-oil and gas. Oil and gas is so important to our everyday lives that I'm not too worried about it going away, because it makes life, it runs the combines out in the fields for the big harvests. It runs the trains, the trucks going down the road. Just that alone is our airplanes. I think it's gonna be a while before we have an electric 747, don't you?
Oh, it's going to be a long time before we have an electric 47. And you talk about all the great things, and here we are talking about all the great things that oil and gas bring to the just to the world. I recommend everyone watch a great documentary. It's about 10 years old, called Spoiled, lowercase SP, capital OIL, lowercase ED, by Mark Mathis. And he really dives into how the oil and gas industry has made are basically what our necessities in life become second thought. And then you also mentioned the electricity on a 747. We won't see a big major change in our fuel source, meaning gasoline and diesel, until we have an awesome fuel source that can get in our combines, our 18-wheelers, and our jets.
JP Warren brings up a good point here, and that's the reason I try and do my show is education, positive PR. The oil and gas industry has been contributing great things for a long time and still does. And, a lot of the podcasts out there are service guys or sales guys. So big shout out to you, Ray, who you're an operator doing a show out there, kind of, touting our wares and stuff and getting your name out there. So thank you once again. And thank you, JP. That's a great comment. And thank you for all that you do, JP.
Yeah, JP does a great job. In fact, I think I just got done posting my latest interview with CDX Energy, and I commented about JP and how he's been able to really do a lot of great things with your network is your net worth. I think he's even done a couple of speeches already, and he's also getting out there just like you are, promoting the positivity of the oil and gas industry. And when I started the Crude Truth, I was looking in a different direction. And however, by my third or fourth interview, I started to really realize that, hey, there's so much going on and there's so much negativity. We really need to talk about all the positive things that are going on, like this refinery in Beaumont area, I think Port Arthur or Port Neches, that they did in Art Avila. It's great to see you, sir. And that, you know what, we are now adding an additional 250,000 barrels of oil that can be refined a day at this refinery. But more importantly, what's exciting about it is that it's going to be able to refine the sweet Texas crude that we have right here in Texas. So we're going to be keeping Texas oil in Texas, and more importantly, keeping Texas money in Texas, so to speak, and that's exciting. The big companies, look, they are innovators. They lead the way. The Exxons, the Chevrons, the Conocos, the Oxys, they lead the way. The Shells, however, they are never really worried about too much on the PR. I think that's why I'm just out here pounding my chest on exciting it is that we got new refinery capabilities at a refinery, especially when we have an administration that is anti giving out permits for anything like that.
Where do we see the growth in the sector? That's the $1 million question, isn't it? What does the future look like? The only thing I can guarantee, it'll be a little bit more, environmentally friendly, because why not? Why not do it cleaner and more efficient? And the growth really is going to be, who knows? What's your thoughts there?
No, Alexander, that's a great question. I do expect the growth to really be in the natural gas zone. It has been under the Biden administration, it has been labeled a green energy, believe it or not. And so I do think that we will see the natural gas side of things pick up in the next 5 to 10 years. Right now it is still inexpensive. And once we really can start to transition, we use the word transition, other engines to a liquid natural gas, kind of like they're doing public transportation already, we could really see some great things, because that also burns a lot cleaner than gasoline. So I could really see that being a great positive in the future. But also in the short term, I'm still bullish on oil this year, guys. The demand in China is still going to be there. The supply is still low. I know there was a report that came out that out in West Texas, operators spent 50% more money last year than they did the previous year, and yet production only went up 6%. Hey, guys, that's just due to the fact that steel has gone up. Gasoline has gone up, so our costs have gone up. My costs have gone up almost a full 40% in the last 18 months on just drilling good old-fashioned vertical wells in North Texas. So, yeah.
I agree with you. Natural gas seems to be kind of volatile again. It reached some pretty big highs, and now the fact that we're exporting it to Europe, replacing what Russia was doing. I don't understand why it's not coming up a little bit more, but maybe that's just access to LNG shipments, and perhaps that'll grow with time. What's your thoughts on natural gas?
Well, great question there. Part of it is, yes, all of our natural gas is going to, or not all of it, but a large portion of our natural gas is going into Europe right now. However, we lost a big purchaser of our natural gas in Pakistan. They were purchasing a lot of natural gas from us, and now we've transitioned that over to Europe. And I just wrote this. I have a Substack article, Substack that I've been trying to write about one a day on. And I talked about coal yesterday in China, and that since we're not getting the natural gas to Pakistan, China is now going to build and finance a large coal-powered plant in Pakistan. So the long route answer is we haven't added any new natural gas sales. We're just moving it. And what we need to be doing is adding more sales. And then in the long run, we could really see that price hopefully come back, go up. When it went at $8 a few months back, that was a surprise to everyone. It was great. I think if we could be at $4 or $5, that would be a great place to stay.
Yes, sir. Power wouldn't be too expensive, and we could address a few issues along the way, like transitioning, locomotives over to natural gas, LNG, and stuff like that. I think that'd be a great way to utilize a lot of the natural gas we have here in the U.S. Another question coming in here: how do you feel about supplying oil to China?
I'm not for it at all. This administration sold oil to the strategic petroleum from our strategic petroleum reserve to China. Let me say that again. President Biden sold our oil from our strategic petroleum reserve to China, and right now China already has oil that they've bought from us. They have oil companies here, and they're trying to now continue to push us out of Saudi Arabia, which is a very dangerous thing. So no, we don't need to be supplying them with any oil because they know that oil is the real power or the energy that creates the power in this world. If you've never read or anybody ever read, it's a thick book called The Prize. Winston Churchill was against oil and gas. And next thing you know, Germany shows up in the British harbor with a diesel-powered battleship. And overnight he goes, if we're going to continue to be the kings of the sea, we need a transition. So oil is the energy source to protect us here in America for sure. Kevin,
Yes,
are you
sir.
finding oil and gas moving to develop fuels that when burned, the fumes actually consume the carbon? Whoa, Kevin, that's a great scientific question right there, sir. Um, Moving towards developing fuels that, when burned, the fumes actually consume the carbon in the atmosphere and still have the benefits of the oil and gas performance. Kevin, that's above. I've got some great people that could probably answer that question better than I can. You talk about have the benefits of an engine. I do know that when with a good old fashioned piston engine, it's not even the gasoline that truly makes the engine go. It's the vapors in those pops. So hydro would be an excellent way to do that as well down the road. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yes, sir. Now, I know you got to get on the road. So this is Tally Book Troubleshooting. You got a story for me in the field, something that happened one time? And
I'll give a little bit of advice. Yes. I'm old school. If you're going to open up a valve, close a valve first before you open up another valve, if that's the way to go, especially to release pressure. Second day on the job, 15 years ago, I was taking care of some flowback sand traps, and or somebody was, not me, somebody, and all I needed to do was bleed the valve. Well, I opened up a valve, an additional valve that was flowing from the well, from the sand traps to the dump, and I went to go just bleed the little valve. I mean, it's not that big, and I just kind of open it up and it just starts shooting out, and then I'm like, okay, and then it slowly doesn't stop, and then I close it, and then it kind of kept going, and then all of a sudden it just busted that little valve, 1/4-inch valve. And next thing you know, I got sand and water going everywhere with a little bit of salt. And I thought I was done. Second day, I was, working for another guy, second day on the job. And I was like, oh, man, to go pack your stuff up. That's what I was thinking. And fortunately, my operator that I was working with in the flowback side of things came running down in his truck, and I can see it now, out there in West Texas, just coming down the hill, and did everything real quick to shut it off. And I was like, I'm done. He goes, you would be, but the guys up there messed up so much worse. I need you here for the next 3 weeks. Said, oh, thank goodness. And so that's my piece of advice. Make sure you've relieved the pressure before you open up any other valves. How about that?
But what a learning experience, right? That's the great thing about this industry. It's those screw ups like that and the sharing of those stories where you go, man, I don't want to do that.
No, and I spent the next day cleaning up that mess myself. I will say that as well. So
it reminds me, I was wirelining, and we prepared for like a week these tools and calibrated them, then shined them up and greased all the connections. It was ready to go. It was 100% tested with the truck. We spared nothing. Got out to location, and it was dead horizontal wells, so you make up with a C plate. Do you think I brought that C plate because I made it up horizontally out in the parking lot 9 times? I didn't bring the C plate. No way to fucking make
Oh
it up.
my gosh.
I was
Oh.
so prepared that I was not prepared. So I know what you're talking about there, sir.
Man. Well, Keith, I cannot thank you enough for allowing me to come on Tally Book Troubleshooting. Great to talk with you. And to all your listeners and anybody that checked us out, I hope I was able to answer your questions about maybe myself personally or just some of your oil and gas questions. Thank you all for tuning in to Trouble Book Tally Shooting. Or Tally Book Troubleshooting, excuse me. We can't go back and cut that out. I'm sorry.
TBT at this
TBT.
point. That's okay. Well, anything else you want to shout out? Any charities you're working for? Any events you're going to? You're going to Connection Crew tonight?
Going to Connection Crew. No, the next big thing, I think I am headed to Houston to go listen to Chris Hosek and David Blackman talk about geopolitical things tomorrow evening in Houston with, I think, the SPE group of Houston or the Gulf of Mexico. And then other than that, I think the Doug convention is going to be the next thing right there. And here in Fort Worth, it's going to be the Super Doug. So excited to be there. Thank you guys very much. Yeah, what?
What makes it the Super Doug?
They're going to have the Bakken. Basically, they're adding the Bakken to North Texas and the Permian, so that's going to be the Super Doug. So a little free publicity there for Manal Fodi and the people over there at Hard Energy. There you go.
I'm waiting for them to invite me to broadcast from there one day. Maybe one day.
I'll invite you to broadcast. I'll tell you what. With a beard like that, whew, you know a thing or two,
right? Like it does go together. I had a friend do a little bit of a, hey man, haven't seen you in a while, and he did this post this morning, and I was like, man, I do have a decent beard. So thank you very much, sir. Shout out to the Crude Truth. When is my episode coming out? So I could shout that out.
Yeah, no, your episode, I'm thinking probably about 2 weeks. 2 weeks out. And golly, it was such a sunny, beautiful day compared to where the way it looks here in North Texas today. When you and I got to meet, we had Brian Lauder there with us, and I can't thank you enough for coming into studio to do that. It was awesome. Thank you so much.
Hey, and here you are returning the favor. So thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone out there. And everybody make it a great day. And check me out on the crudetruth.com. And I have a Substack called crudetruth.substack.com.
Excellent, sir. We'll make sure we get it in the comments. And, we taking bets oil and gas will be in 2 weeks. Oh, above 70 or below 70? What's your thoughts?
I'm going above 70 in 2 weeks. There it is. I wrote it down, JP. Above 70 in 2 weeks.
You heard it here first, folks. Okay, everybody, have a great day, and that's how you troubleshoot.